Looking for a motion to adopt our agenda. Council Bullock makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, carried. Next up, adoption of the minutes of our last meeting. Council Lemko makes the motion. Any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing nobody, all those in favor, carried. Okay, so today we're going to start off with a delegation from the Vegreville Vipers. And we have Lorianne Coho here and Brian Brown from the Vipers. And the floor is all yours, Lorianne.
Is that okay if I have it here?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
It's just that it'll poke me in the eye if I don't move it.
I see the red light's on, so your mic is on.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity to present here today. I did provide hard copies of our presentation to council, and I understand that it will be televised or recorded, and the presentation photos will be able to be seen. I wanted to be allowed to speak as well today, just so that I could add a couple things that aren't in the presentation materials, and so that it's on the record. For anybody who doesn't know, the Vipers inaugural season was September 2021. I have a typo in my presentation being 2022. But workings behind the scene to get us up and going started many years before that. We did do an application to the town a couple times just to be considered. But we did operate our first season at the Wally Fadoon Arena and commenced with tryouts and skates mid-September. But who really started the Vipers? Well, you have myself. For you that don't know me, it's hard to believe, I know. But I'm a QC lawyer in town here. I began my career here 30-some years ago when I was a very, very baby lawyer. And that's feedback. Should I move this?
I got Mike off. Where's that coming from? I got this sound. Hello? I got the sound off on my laptop.
Should I try? Down further? Is that better?
Sounds better. I can't help it. I'll try not to talk. How's that? Or is it better with my mic on?
It's way better when I don't talk. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I think that's an omen for me to quit talking about myself.
Well,
But anyway, I started here 30 years ago when I was quite a baby lawyer. I continued with my sole practice in 2013. I, of course, own my own home, and I have two other businesses involved in the town of Vegreville. The other person that helped greater behind the scenes is my husband, who wasn't the husband at the time, but that's a different story. And he moved to Vegreville about 5 years ago. He runs a landscaping, deck, fence building, anything that makes him physically hurt every day. He's the brains behind the Vipers. Ask him any hockey question, and he will be able to answer it. Truthfully or not, I'm not sure, because I don't know the history of hockey from the beginning of time immemorial. But he began skating when he was 4, so that's about, 15 years ago, and played with the Humboldt Broncos, played NCAA, played in Sweden when he was 15 and had hair. He does have his coaching designation, and he is the president of the CAJHL, which is the league that we operate under. To say that we, the owners and management, are into hockey is a bit of an understatement. Anybody who's been in my boardroom will see signed jerseys by Connor McDavid, Carey Price, Guy Lafleur, Bobby Hall, Jonathan Taves, and Kyle Brodziak. I have one spot left there, and that's where the inaugural signed jersey of the Vipers will go on the wall. Brian lives, breathes, eats, sleeps, snores hockey. His phone, thank gosh it's in the car, rings, texts, messages every minute of the day on hockey. He is contacted by European scouts, coaches, managers looking for players to fill scholarship positions. Later on in my presentation, I've identified a couple opportunities that players that were here last year filled. And it is super exciting for me because growing up, I mean, if I could have, followed Guy Lafleur around, I would have. That's the beginning of my jersey collection. This sign says it all. Hockey lives here. And Brian and I were so excited when we got the team here. The pictures you will see in the presentation walk through the season. Yes, there's a couple of there with the esteemed mayor and myself, and no, I don't remember what he was saying. But our inaugural season was amazing. It is hard to explain standing on the upper deck when those boys came out the first time with the uniforms on that they all hated, the pants that the refs made fun of, the gloves that, fell apart, the snake head that we couldn't get blown up and then we couldn't get to unblow. It was, that stuff aside, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable to see this team come together. So we took a lot of time and effort to choose our members of our team. These boys started as boys and became respectable, responsible young men. We would receive comments from people in the community that we did not know, and they were ecstatic to see them in the community. They were proud to wear that jersey, and they were proud to be ambassadors of Vegreville. My first interview on the radio was, they asked a question, I don't even remember the question, but my response was, I wanted to show Vegreville to the world through hockey. And these boys, I had a couple discussions with them on the importance of the way we are going to conduct this team, and it was done with respect and responsibility. And if that didn't fit the idea that the boys came in with, then they didn't stay. But we gave these boys not only a team to play on, but an opportunity to learn more skills, to hone their skills, to grow and develop that hockey brain. And that hockey brain is very important. When they came to the community, and later on in the presentation, it identifies a whole bunch of different countries that we brought players in from. They became, and they were involved with the community. They were happy to shovel snow, thank God, at 40 below. The first experience of our young Italian player was a little bit different. He thought snow was 2 inches of snow. He was so excited. Look, we have snow back home. We have snow. And I'm like, that's not snow. That's like a skiff. And so we were gone the weekend that it really snowed, and we came back to his idea of shoveling, which was you go down the middle of the driveway and you shovel one path, and then you just do a little bit on the side. And that's shoveling. So my driveway by the end of winter, I could barely get my car in because he would just keep getting smaller and smaller, and then it would melt, and I would have a ice of snow. But anyway, his idea of snow, he learned. He learned. I just want to go through some of the photos of what our team did. We were going through just some of the memories, and it was, you know, you forget things. We started our very first game with my husband's daughter singing and performing the national anthem in Cree, and she drums it as well, and that was pretty special. We renovated the dressing room on our own to try and fit the 27 players, 3 goalies, 3 coaches, and some extra people. You can tell by some of the pictures it was a bit of a tight fit. We are the only team in the CAJHL that have an inflatable tunnel to go through. That's the Viper Head. And I noticed referees taking photos of it, very, you know, not so that anybody would notice. The kids were so excited to skate through there. The refs skated through there. And by the end of the season, we got it up and down in a minute flat. So we did pretty good. We had, of course, to name our mascot, and the community named that as Venom. The boys would rake leaves for donations or free if the people couldn't afford to donate. We shoveled snow throughout there. We hauled groceries. We provided free tickets to a lot of the students. There was a school that was not prepared to accept the free tickets to hand out, so they weren't handed out. But we know that there are people that can't afford to go out and entertain, so we did that. The boys did assist with moving people, although that was something that wasn't out there a lot to the public. Nobody likes moving, but the boys did it. We helped with the Halloween treats downtown, which was pretty cold. I wore the mascot costume for that time. Nobody knows that, but I did. And it was kind of fun because you get to wave and touch kids and hug them, and they think it's great. You do now, no. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Grocery hauling, food bank donations, the Halloween party we talked about. We did a pumpkin carving on our own with the kids, and they had a blast. Hot dogs and all that stuff. Santa Claus Parade was another one that the boys were happy to be with. My husband misunderstood the instructions. It wasn't a bag of food for one person, it was a bag of food for one car. But that's okay, they didn't really run out that quickly. Yeah. We have a host of volunteers that come to the games. We donate all of our 50/50s to the Minor Hockey Association, and whoever runs the 50/50 was given free admission to the game, and the kids were given free pizza, sponsored by our sponsors. The boys also coached one of the minor hockey teams here in town, and they assisted with running the fall camp, the conditioning camp, and the interesting part of all of this from the minor hockey is our Junior Viper program. It worked itself into a program, and it was 2 Junior Vipers who were nominated on their team, and they got to skate with the Vipers. They went out on the ice underneath the snakehead for the national anthem, and they left afterwards. They got the ceremonial toque and a Gatorade, and my gosh, they were so darn excited, and they didn't sleep for days. There's a little picture that I really like that I had to include in here with the little Junior Viper sleeping with the Viper gloves. He told his mom that he was gonna be a Viper. And those gloves, I don't think, left his bed for about a week, and that's not my fault. It's not my fault. We also took the boys to Vegas, and despite COVID and the airline canceling our flight the night before, and I had to get 17 players home before Christmas. It was a great time. Exposure to scouts and GMs, anybody who's looking for players. And the boys enjoyed it. They had a good time. One other thing that occurred was on the Bell Let's Talk presentation. We had an attendance by the elders and a full bus of fans from the Canoe Lake First Nations Reserve. They spoke about the mental health crisis that they were facing, but they also spoke about how important it was for their members to be in the position where they were playing, the level of hockey they were playing. It helped with the community, and that's important, to give people the opportunity, and that's what we try and do. We also did a teddy bear toss, which was lots of fun. I had a parent that came with 3 bags of teddy bears for the kids that didn't have a teddy bear. And just to see the little kids are getting so excited, waiting for that first goal, and the gate opens, and then there's teddy bears everywhere. We participated in raising money for Ukraine humanitarian relief. Our team raised $12,000 from the community that was donated, and Hinton, who also participated, the Hinton Timberwolves, raised $8,500. The boys got behind the captain, Mikita Protsenko, from the Ukraine, and they raised money through hot dogs and whatever, shoveling snow, enough money to bring his mom and his sister here. And that's pretty special to see the boys take that initiative. There was no involvement from management. They wanted to do it. I mean, yes, we helped out by selling hot dogs, but it was their initiative. One of the final things near the end of the season is I unveiled the new jersey for the playoffs, which is the dark jersey. And of course, now that's the favorite. Boys. And we placed 3rd in the Champions Cup for our very first year. So that was pretty exciting for them. They did such a good job in that last game and pulled together. It was so good to see. We provide full gym memberships for them all, and of course, all the gear, etc., to play. We have a lot of other ideas lined up for next year, or this year, I should say, that will be put into motion as soon as we can. We brought international players. So the league allows, I think it's 14 European players for each team. So last year we brought in players from Germany, Italy, Philippines, Hungary, USA, of course, USA, we always heard about that, Holland, Jamaica, Sweden. It was so good to see, and these boys just fit. They just fit right in. The opportunities that were provided to some of our players at the end of our season was, we had one gentleman who signed with Semi-Pro in Finland. We had another one that was given an option of Finland or Calvin University or Grand Rapids, Michigan. We had another one who got a scholarship with Montana State. We had one given tryouts to the Slovakia semi-pro team. And then we had a couple local boys that got tryouts to the main camps at the AJHL level. That's the junior hockey level in Alberta, with the Canmore Eagles and Drayton Valley Thunder. So for a team that's brand new, we got pretty good exposure, and the boys were given great opportunities. The only thing we asked from them was a commitment, and they came through. In addition to what we provided for the players, I believe that we also put many benefits to the town. We billeted 17 players last year. That's billet money that went into the town. Groceries, yes, I know $500 a month was not enough to feed a child with who eats like they do. We had 2 billets, and my goodness, I've never seen kids eat so much. But anyway, we practice Monday through Thursday, 1.5 hours per day, ice time, and of course, ice rental. In addition to that, if we play Friday, we usually have a morning skate as well, but we play Friday, Saturday, some Sundays every weekend, usually alternating away and home games. Again, ice rental. We promptly pay our invoices, contrary to some other leagues. We believe with the expansion of the league, we will probably increase our games from 42 to about 54, and we kind of estimate that to increase the ice rental to the town to upwards of $40,000. In addition to that, we buy the gym memberships for the boys. We also increase what the concession people earn, and they really like us when we're there. We put a pie chart in there just to show some of the other spin-offs of the money. Not only is there billet money coming in, there is the players with their own money. I've never seen so many people at Tim's ever. I mean, a child lives off of Tim's these days, morning, evening, nighttime. We had increased donations to the food bank. The food bank were happy to be at the entry. Anybody brought a food item, of course, got in at a reduced rate. We've also had a lot of players' families come in to Vegreville, and money comes from that. All the supplies that we need and we can buy locally, we do. And then we had some rental income as well for the coaches. This year, we have 2 assistant coaches coming from Ukraine. One is, they both have a long list of credentials. They are bringing their families. We were talking before the recording about the opportunities for some assistance, but yes, we'll be bringing 2 of the coaches. They have been approved. It's just a matter of getting them here. And we just heard a couple days ago from a young player whose family lost everything in the war and has requested to come early. So we're working on getting him here by July. We have a job already for him. We're just looking for a residence. The league also announced an affiliation with Premier Hockey League, which basically opens up the avenue to have players from everywhere come into our league and to play additional. I think they're working on affiliating with the AJHL as well, meaning that our players could play at a higher level for games if needed, and that gives them exposure and a possibility of a place. But I know I've probably gone off track for 17 minutes or however long I've been up here. You have to deduct me for the time that...
You're at 21 minutes.
Oh, okay, quick. I want to talk about the dressing room.
Okay.
Our roster is full, usually by mid-November. 27 players, 3 goalies, 3 coaches, plus practice players. The pictures in here show 24 players and 3 goalies. There's no room. What I did when it became obvious that the quality of air in that room is needs some assistance after every practice, I bought an industrial ionizer just to get rid of the germs and odors and stuff because we were getting colds that circulated. But when everybody's in there, it's tight. During the original discussion with the town before we brought the team, it was stated that if we had a good first successful season and it looked like we were going to stick around, that we could probably approach the town to discuss the dressing room. So that's why I'm here. we're asking just the town to consider options. And there's a whole list of options. I've put some of them in the presentation. And we understand that there has to be certain things followed. We understand we have to have an engineering assessment in all steps. And we are open to the option of assisting with labor or whatever we can cost. But before we do that, of course, we have to figure out what we're doing. We probably are a little too late for this coming season, and we understand that. But, it doesn't hurt to get some options available. The contract that we entered into, of course, means that we need the dressing room, a coach's room, office, and the locked storage, which we have now. It's just the dressing room needs some expansion. The delicate part of this, though, is the understanding that the Vipers organization is a business and that we are here to do the same thing we did last year. We are in the community. We will continue to provide community support. We will continue to bring people to Vegreville. We've already got that in the works. Our concern is with the approach that appeared on the last agenda about the resurgence of the old team. Now, there is, we've been told that they've already been promised ice and dressing room. Our concern is when we approached first to Vegreville, the concern was that there was not enough ice time. And so we want to make sure that our hard work and our options available to these kids don't go by the wayside. If there was not enough ice time 3 years ago for two teams, what has changed? I don't believe it's just and right to have our hard work and benefits to the community having someone else benefit from that without they contributing in whatever way, time, energy, etc. There are other issues that I believe if the other team is going to be allowed to return, that we should be able to approach and discuss that. For instance, we have the center logo on the ice, and our discussions last year were with respect to other ice slots, advertising, board advertising, and again, we have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that we represent Vegreville to the best of our ability. We have a respectful, responsible young team that is doing the best, and they're doing great for this town. I don't believe that the community involvement is behind the other team, and I don't believe the other team is putting effort into ensuring that Vegreville benefits. I want to make sure that the Vipers stay. I want to make sure that the whole purpose behind this team is those kids. A lot of those kids come from homes that need something else. And we cut costs to make sure we can give opportunities for these kids. We make sure that they are given the best. I mean, if they want to succeed at a higher level hockey and they have the drive, we will help them. We will make them get there. That's an
I'm gonna have to.
yes, that's an opportunity that we don't believe sits anywhere else. Those are my comments.
And we all feel your passion. I'll guarantee you that. I'm not cutting you off. other than it's a time constraint here. So, but I do want to be able to see if anybody has any questions of Lorianne or Brian after the presentation. I would like to say that your inaugural season was a very good.
Thank you.
And everything that you put into this booklet here and what your players and what your organization has done for the community is true. And everything you said that this team would be did work out exactly what you said. And I know there was a few hiccups along the way.
Yes.
And we certainly do appreciate that the invoices were paid on time. I know there was a small problem with changing the leagues, but I think it was for the best. And I think the decisions moving forward were very good. On behalf of the town, I'll tell you that our commitment to you on the contract for your ice slots is not going to change. We committed to those times. As far as the dressing room goes, you're right. We can't do a lot for this season, but we're willing to have that conversation moving forward because we have to put stuff like that in a budget.
Perfect. Yeah, that's all we ask.
And as far as the other team that is coming back or may be coming back, we haven't had a conversation with them yet. So whatever you've heard about them getting ice time and stuff, we haven't had that conversation. I know that when we signed the contract, and I talked to you and Brian both, I said there was a possibility that they may be coming back. And we all agreed that we would deal with how that will look moving forward. But we are not changing the contract that we have signed with you when it comes to your ice time.
Perfect. Thank you.
I can tell you that now. So moving forward, through Phil, Director Rowe, we'll start talking about what can be done. I know you guys have some ideas on a dressing room expansion and stuff. And again, they all have to be engineered. We have to take a look at everything.
Absolutely.
So we will get to that in the future. And but we want to work with you, with your organization. Like I said, your inaugural season and what those young men did in this community was amazing. So, I mean, I don't think anybody in this community would doubt or have anything bad to say about the way it was run. So, I just want to say to both of you that you've done a very good job. And like I said, we're ready to move forward and see how things look. And if we can help, we will. So,
Thank you. That means a lot to hear that because when you're in it, you don't see it. Thank you. And will you just be contacting us in the future?
yes, now you went over your time. I phoned the police.
Yes.
Okay, thank you both for coming in today, and thank you for what your organization has done for the community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything else they need to say or want to say? Councillor Rudick?
I just wanted to say thank you. It's nice to be able to have something new to be excited about in the community, and it came at a good time. And I'll look forward to seeing what kind of conversations move forward, because I'm sure those conversations need to happen by a certain deadline that you'll let our
I think we're, my just short discussion with the mayor was that you would have your discussions in closed camera and that you would get back to us and then we'll go from there.
For sure. Thank you both.
Thank you.
I was just joking about phoning the police.
Then why did 3 of them come?
Thank you. Okay, moving forward. We have Staff Sergeant Terry Higgins, and you've brought some people with you.
Good afternoon, Mayor McPhee, Council. It's great to see you all. I know that I had some paperwork prepared for you, and I brought some additional paper. I just thought these so just some overall stats, but I'll start off. Before I get into that, I'd like to make a couple of introductions to you as well. I brought with me today our new Detachment Services Supervisor. This is Cindy Chernachan. And Cindy's joined us from Smoky Lake Detachment, where she had 12 years, I believe, as attachment services assistant there. And so she's been around. She's very familiar with the RCMP and how we manage things internally, and as far as office management as well. So we are really grateful. She's we've made some great changes and modifications within our office, and we're starting to see some things streamlined, and our way of doing business needs to be challenged every once in a while. It's good to have some new blood in our office, and it's been a great positive experience having her come in. So
Welcome to town, Cindy. Are you still commuting? Yes, I am. Well, hopefully that changes. And who's your bodyguard you brought with you, Terry?
I believe most of you know Corporal Ray Stack already. He's going to help out with a few of the things I have to present today. And this is Corporal Patrick Workington, who's been here for a while now, but I think the opportunity hasn't come up just yet to introduce. But Patrick comes to us from F Division. He spent his last posting in Maidstone and a few other spots in F as well. And his family's from the Edmonton area, so he wanted to make his way there. And so he's been a great addition to our detachment. He's one of our supervisors, and he's coming along quite well and getting happy to be here as well, as I understand it. So
Well, welcome to our town, and we appreciate the work you do every day. And as far as Mr. Stack goes, there, nice to see you again.
Yes, it's been a while. It's been to see everyone, actually.
Yeah,
The summer's good, I'll see you more, I'm sure.
excellent. Sorry, Terry, go ahead.
oh, that's not a problem. I know it wasn't that long ago that I'd spoken with you, so but I'm glad to come up to see you again already. It's I did bring a few stats along with me, and I won't go into too much detail, but we did get some stats just this morning on our year-to-year, January to May, and that's the colorful one that you're all looking at here. And we've got some encouraging stats. So overall, we've seen quite a decrease in our persons crimes from this time last year, the opening 5 months. A 31% decrease, as well as an 18% in the other criminal code. I know I've harped over and over again about the mental health issues that we've seen, especially during COVID. We finally saw a bit of relief from that in the first half of the year, especially January to March. We saw, I want to say, a 50% reduction in those months. I don't have that exact stat with me, but overall, we've seen quite a reduction. We're starting to see a little more with the weather warming up. We've had some people struggling again in this last month or two, but overall the stats, we're seeing a bit of relief from that. A lot of things have been fairly static. Break-in enters, our thefts are down quite a bit. We've seen an increase in the motor vehicle thefts, and a lot of them that we're seeing in the last couple of months are ending up in outlying areas. We're finding out a lot of people have been coming through town and targeting vehicles and taking them elsewhere, and we've been finding them abandoned. Quite often in the St. Paul area, Bonnyville area, Cold Lake, we've seen quite a few abandoned and recovered up there. So when we see vehicles that we don't recognize in town, and our members recognize, our players that we need to watch out for, they're keeping tabs on them, but when we see vehicles that are driving around that we don't recognize, the members are trying to pull them over and stop them and try to at least find out who they are and what they're doing in town, kind of thing. We're seeing a lot of that. But from that perspective, speaking on the overall stats that I'd done in the quarterly reports that I'd sent out, we were quite successful in meeting our projected goals for last year in the performance plan. We were focusing last year on continuing on with our crime reduction, and especially in regards to drug trafficking and our habitual offender management. I'm going to get Ray Stack to come up and speak just briefly on that. I know that he had done a bit of a write-up on it, but or I can just speak to it, Ray. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. My apologies. We had a really successful year as far as that goes. Our members have been really keeping close tabs on our habitual offenders, and overall there's been more search warrants executed this past year than ever in Vegreville. They're constantly checking on our habitual offenders, and the local players that we deal with, they are keeping them in check. We've got 2 in cells right now that they just picked up last night. We had 3 more from over the weekend that they had dealt with. We've done 3 search warrants this last week alone. The members are doing a lot to keep tabs on the people that we know are going out and committing these crimes over and over again. So we are seeing, that's where we're seeing this reduction in some of the property crimes, the thefts and break-and enters. We are seeing slight reductions. And as long as we're going downwards, that's the right trend. Unfortunately, the thefts of motor vehicle, we've seen 16 more of those this year than last year. And I've been watching those, I've been keeping tabs on them, and they're not, most of them are not our local players. Most of them are coming from out of town, they're coming through town. And so we need to continue working on that to address that. And my ask of the members is to continue to pull over those vehicles. If you see somebody in town that you don't recognize, continue to target them and try to persuade them to leave our town and not break any laws, right? If they're not from here, what are they doing here? So if you have any questions about that, by all means, these stats. I forwarded off our 2021 detachment profile report to CEO Leggett, and he wanted me to come in and explain a little bit about what this document meant. And this one specifically speaks about some of the statistics and the crime rates, as also the solve rates are statistics. And I'm not going to go into every single one of them. I trust you've all got copies there, but as I mentioned before on page 3 of 12, it speaks to the vehicle thefts where we have seen an increase this year, but from last year, but I should say in 2021 it was down. So that also reflects, because 2021 was down, we were having a good year, now we're back up a little bit. So, you know, on the 5-year trend though, we were down 16%. But this year we're seeing a bit of a rise in those again. But overall, our thefts are quite a bit down. The 5-year on the overall thefts, and that includes property crimes, right, from theft over, theft under, break and enters, we're down 23% overall in 2021. Even though we've seen a bit of an increase this year in the vehicle thefts, overall we're seeing a decrease in thefts in general, property crimes in general. Disturbing the peace, we saw, and as well as the other criminal code, we saw a significant increase in 2021 and the 5-year trend, 79% and 91% respectively for the 5-year to the 1-year overlay. I attribute a lot of that to the mental health issues that we've seen. So, and I think a lot of you have probably experienced that. You've seen some people causing disturbances, even right downtown here, in the town office and some of the town facilities we've seen in the last couple of years. And a lot of that, I think, has been attributed to the mental health issues. But I can speak a little bit to that as well. We've had a lot of success with our referrals, and we've continued to build relationships with our doctors and work with Covenant Health. I know that for a while there, we were trying to address some issues that were occurring at the hospital, you know, and assist them. And we've really seen a lot of relief from that in the last little while. I think things have improved quite a bit. And we're also seeing some improvement in dealing with some of these clients. It seems like some of them, we're seeing some success stories. I was speaking with the ladies at the office yesterday about one client in particular who's just doing incredibly well now, and we know that person was struggling for a long, long time. And, you know, we hear the odd success story, and we know that it's because the right help's been there. And so we want to continue to make sure that we're getting those referrals forward. And we saw quite an increase in our failed to compliant breaches last year on page 3, 71%, 52% increase year over. That's got primarily to do with our habitual offender management. So that number's way up, but that means proactive work is being done. That's what Ray and I were speaking about earlier is the guys getting out there and they are checking on these offenders to make sure that they're home when they're supposed to be, to make sure that they're sober, they're not, you know, reaching their conditions. So we're going to continue doing that, and we're seeing the dividends. It is paying off. On page 4 of 12, we're speaking about our drug category, particularly trafficking. 213% increase in drug trafficking enforcement over a 5-year trend. So what that means is the guys are doing their job as far as getting after the drug traffickers. The search warrants that I spoke of, doing the seizures, traffic stops. When we see somebody that's coming through town that we suspect may be involved in that trade, they're getting pulled over, and the guys they're doing the searches if they have the grounds to do them. And so there's a lot of results there, and a lot of these people are the ones that are out doing the property crimes, stealing the catalytic converters and, doing the break-and-enters and that kind of thing. So we're going to continue hammering away on that, and as long as we keep seeing the downward trends that we have seen, will be great. We'll continue on. Mental Health Act calls fall under on that same page, 59% increase over the 5-year trend. And that one, largely it's out of our control, except we can continue on with the referrals and hopefully continue to see those success stories. And we are seeing some gradual decreases. Thankfully, COVID is hopefully going to continue to give us some relief from that. So the rest of the document speaks a lot to clearance rates. There's some other stats here as far as population and that kind of thing. As well, 2021 metrics. So if you get into page 6, it speaks to criminal code per regular member in that chart. In 2017, there was 99.1 criminal code cases per regular member. In 2021, there was 112, and we've seen a gradual steady increase in that, so the members have been dealing with more and more files as the years go by. Crime Severity Index, I don't have those numbers with me today for 2021, they haven't come out yet, but from 2017 to 2020, we saw a gradual increase, and it's about 178 in 2020. That's not a real high number. The last community I was in was around the 400 mark, and that's really one of the higher ones. This is also relevant to the size of the community. If you get one violent incident or perhaps a homicide in a community the size of Vegreville, it makes a huge impact on the Crime Severity Index, whereas if that were to happen in a community like Leduc, it's not going to have nearly the same impact because it's so much larger on that Crime Severity Index. The CC per 1,000, that's criminal code cases per 1,000 people. That is static. That number hasn't changed much. And police to population ratio, it's high enough, but this means there's 713 population per police officer posted to Vegreville. But given our crime rates, it's manageable at this point. And we saw an increase in 2020, and I think that was due to the SRO loss, and it's reflected in the stats. But nothing really surprising or of concern there to me, and it's being managed. So overall, our clearance rates have stayed fairly static over the last 5 years. Some have gone up a little bit, depends on the category. Our persons clearance rates for persons crimes have come down a little bit. Property crimes have come up a little bit. But overall, they're fairly static. We haven't seen any significant changes. If we saw any major change, it might concern me a little bit. But overall, we're on target to where we should be. These things are going to vary a little bit from year to year. And there's also further averages from other detachments. If you should question about what other detachments look like in the province, it also spells that out if you look at the charts for those detachments between 5,000 and 10,000 people. So that's the basis of this report that I brought in, and I just thought I'd come in and explain it a little bit to you. And that's along with the introductions, because at some point I may be away on holidays, and perhaps one of these folks will come in to speak to you instead. So, and as well, it's nice to know who's running the detachment. This is our management team. So, again, we're extremely happy to have Cindy with us. We just actually got done our first management team meeting, and it feels like a good way forward for our detachment. And we've got some Cindy is also primarily going to be in charge of supervising our municipal employees as well. So that's going to take a little bit of pressure off of me because I was taking on that task prior. And so this is a promotion in that position. And I'm really quite happy about it. And I think going forward, it's a positive move. So, and she brings a lot of expertise to the table. Let's face it, I don't know everything, and I certainly can use all the help and expertise in some of the areas that Cindy brings. She's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to our database systems and sort of managing the administrative part of it. And so we spent quite a bit of time about that, thinking, how have things been done in different detachments that we've seen, and between the four of us, we're able to bring some big improvements and hopefully streamline our administrative process a little bit.
Okay, does anybody have any comments, or go ahead, Councillor Warwood?
So I have just one comment, one question. So first off, just in kind of a reply to talking about repeat or habitual offenders, I think it's really important to say how much I appreciate, and I think we speak for all council, that how much we appreciate that. I realize how difficult it probably is when you're doing a job and you're seeing both provincially and federally what equates to failure as far as how the regulations are going, the criminal codes, the open door on repeat offenders, and the fact that I think we know right now the direction of government is even lesser offenses, some more mandatory minimums, and I think it makes your guys' job really hard. Probably makes it feel like, why would I do it when you know how often it doesn't equate to sentence. But I think that it's just invaluable what you're doing there, because the presence is there and the stance is there and the we won't put up with it is there. And I think that's really crucial to our community. So I hope that you thank your members and also let them, tell them we don't want them discouraged by the outcomes. They're doing their job there. The failure is never theirs if it's coming out of the court. So that was just one point. And then my one question was just in regards to this one here. Were the numbers specifically, like for example, when it comes to the motor vehicle thefts, was it specifically to the town of Vegreville, or was it the area that we service?
This chart in particular is just the town of Vegreville. Yeah. I do have another one that's separate for the provincial area, but yeah, this one is specific, and that stat does concern me. The amount of vehicle thefts increase that we've seen in the last 5 months. And it is unique. We don't normally see a huge increase like that. In my time here in Vegreville, almost 4 years now, I haven't seen a significant increase like that, so I'm aware of it. And so is the rest of the membership. And we want to, we're already planning on how to attack that. You look at it and it's like, well, it's 16 vehicles. Well, in a city, maybe that's not such a huge deal, but in a town the size of Vegreville, it's significant. There are neighbors, they're the folks that we talk to every day that they're having their vehicles stolen. That's, to me, a huge, I have a friend actually, it was one of them that lost his truck this spring. And it was quite traumatic to him. And can be life-changing to some people. So,
Yes, my follow-up question to that, sorry, was just to this one part of it would be, would you say that they are outright thefts? And where I'm going to bring this is I'm going to take this back to, we had a car stolen from my dad, but being in rural, he was very comfortable in his community, and he helped them by always leaving the keys in the car. So would you say that there's an education component to comfort here, or they were just outright thefts?
there is some education that can assist. We had the project lock up this winter, and we actually went around talking with some folks when their vehicles were seen running outside of their house warming up. We did that 1 week, and actually it was enlightening. Some of the members came back and said, you know, I had a good talk with people. Nobody got really too mad at me for going and educating them, right? Yeah. But, you know, there were a few people that said, you know what, you're right. It's not a good idea. So there is some education there that can happen. But to be honest, Councillor Wawa, most of these are educated thieves. Oh, yeah. That, they have the ability in under a minute to get in a vehicle, even the newer vehicles now, right, and take them. So no, I don't think the most of these are the ones where they're sitting there running with the keys in. Okay. There's a few, but and your comment earlier about the habitual offenders, we appreciate your support in that, and it's good to know that you recognize that we are doing our best in that regard. And to me, that's the most important, or one of the most important parts of trying to keep this, keep these crimes in particular, Low is trying to crack down on those ones that we do know that are committing these crimes.
Council Lunk goes first and then.
Yeah, this is no question, or it's just a comment. I was fortunate enough to go to a conference in Regina this past weekend, and I took my wife with me, and she was able to tour the depot or through a touring section. And she was talking to me about they got to see the K9 place and they explained that to them. She also mentioned that they talked about your training and all that. And she made a comment that she said, you have to be very special to want to go through that program to become that and then walk the streets and drive the streets every day. So if my charming bride says that, it means a lot, and it means a lot to me too. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Councilor Rudy.
Thank you very much. It's nice to meet new members and welcome to the community. My question was if you are familiar with, there's I don't want to even use the word a trial program that's being piloted through Wainwright that is using health professionals, law enforcement, as well as social workers to go out and do triage of people that potentially are not, they should not be going to jail, but they should be redirected to the mental health supports that they need. So it's an initial basis, and it is for the East Central Zone, which we are a part of. So just curious if you've heard about it. From the reports that they've been giving to the Health Advisory Council, it's been extremely positive, and they've redirected a lot of people appropriately and making sure that they get the appropriate support. So I'm just curious if you're hearing about that.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. I am familiar with that. It's referred to as the Police and Counseling Team, the PACT unit. And they have had trials in progress for several years out of Edmonton. And Eastern Alberta District has been provided resources for 2 of these units. And they were in discussions about where to deploy those units. I actively advocated to have one of them here. However, unfortunately, it didn't happen at that time. It's not to say it won't happen going forward. I'm going to continue pushing for that because I think Vegreville is the ideal place for it. But right now they've decided to base them out of Wainwright and I believe St. Paul or Slave Lake. And I think that's still in discussion. Finding the RCMP members isn't necessarily the difficulty. We can find our own internal members, but finding healthcare staff, nursing, or psychologists that are able to help with that respect. I think generally they're looking for nurses with mental health training and or psych nurses. To find someone in those communities that wants to do this full time, I think has been a challenge in some of the communities. That being said, I think Wainwright has got it up and running, and I'm waiting to hear the results, and we will have access to that team here. So we'll be putting referrals forward, and we'll be putting lots of referrals forward because we can use all the help we can get when it comes to that. When we get a member who has quite often a background in that, I know that there's a member in St. Paul that they're looking at trying to get into that position, and she also has, I believe, a background in counseling. And if they can get a nurse in there as well with that training, instead of us having to necessarily take somebody to the hospital, we can go right to them and hopefully get the help right then and there. And we know that there's a lot of need for that in this community. So we can have somebody come out. Wainwright's not far. Whenever we have clients that are struggling, and it's every day, you know, with this, we can put referrals forward and have them start coming out to help us, hopefully on a regular basis. I think they're still in the infancy in getting it up and running, though. So,
Well, what I can tell you is we were at the same conference as Councillor Lemko and Councillor Rudick, and we talked to other councils, mayors, reeves from all over this country, and what's going on here is the same problems that are everywhere in the society today. We don't punish criminals anymore, so that's my take on it. But I am alarmed at the drug trafficking 213%. We know that you guys are working hard, and when we hear these names, the charges and stuff, and we don't recognize anybody. And as a community, we don't understand what's going on. How are these people setting up in town, and why? I mean, we were away, we heard there was a big gun seizure here in town. I mean, these are things that are not typical for Vegreville, and as a council, we're very concerned about what's going on. I know that the new Minister of Justice, Solicitor General, has announced he's gonna hire 10 more judges for the province, but that doesn't help with putting somebody in jail. I look at your police to population ratio, we're at 713, and you know what? 700 of those people aren't criminals, so every officer has 13 criminals to deal with, and it's a big concern in our community, and we appreciate what the work you guys do, but our community doesn't understand who these people are and why they're in our community, and it's a big challenge right now, and I don't know what the answer is, but somehow we got to find a different way to get these people out of our community and put them in jail. So if that's every municipality in this province lobbying, they have more money spent on jails, because it's a waste of your detachment's time to catch and these people that keep committing these crimes. And again, when they have no ties to our community, nobody here understands it. It's not who we are. So maybe you guys can come up with a new idea or give us some direction of what we as a council can do. Is it the neighbors? Is it the houses that they're renting? What should we do? I mean, you guys are catching them, thank God, especially guns. I mean, when there's weapons charges involved, that's not who we are here. That's not how things are supposed to be. So what's the next step, in your opinion? What should we do?
I think, first of all, you hit the nail on the head that this isn't unique to Vegreville. Every community is struggling with similar issues. And you also did touch on the judicial system. And I mean, the 2 people that are in custody today, I can tell you since I've been here, we've charged them with trafficking 4 times, 5 times. That's 4 years. And I recall, when I started out, if we charged somebody with trafficking, it was minimum 2 years. They were doing Fed time. So 5 times now, there's been trafficking charges laid against these 2 individuals that are in custody right now in our cells. And I'm not confident that they're going to stay in custody. We've done everything we can to keep them there, but they continue to return to the area. It's an affordable place to live. It's a nice community. These people in particular do have some ties here, but I know what you mean by there are some other names that have popped up, because there's some that we don't even recognize, and we ask ourselves why they're here. Well, they can find affordable accommodations. It's still close enough to the city that they can go back and forth. And, but again, it's not unique to Vegreville. I'm sure that Edson's seeing the same issues, and Morinville and Slave Lake.
Well, Ontario, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, we've talked to everybody in the last few days. But with the new minister, I think that we just got to kick it up a notch and start lobbying again, all municipalities in the province. And I mean, there's a lot of money that's spent in this province in different ways, but if we don't get these people out of our communities.
We've made it clear that our message to them is, if you come to Vegreville, we're going to make it very difficult for you to break the law here. And when we're going out and executing these search warrants, pulling over these vehicles of people we know that are offending, every chance we get, that's the message we're giving them. If you're going to be here, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you are not free. Unfortunately, it doesn't always translate into them being off the streets for any significant period of time. But we'll keep on with it, and we'll continue on.
Well, you guys keep doing the job you're doing and harassing every one of those criminals as much as you can. And as a municipality, we're going to start lobbying again with the new minister. We'll start all over again, and we're going to keep asking them why. And we'll try to get every other municipality that we can. And I know at AU, or Alberta Munis now it's called, it was a big concern at our last conference as well, that why we can't get past this. So yeah, we'll do our job. You guys keep doing your job. And we do appreciate everything you guys do. I want you to know that. So go ahead.
Well, and I think we're gonna have to lobby federally too. Like right now, there's currently a bill right before Parliament that was the old C-23, that's a C-5, and it actually looks to further reduce mandatory minimum sentences, including several drug charges, some firearms charges, assault on a peace officer, assault with a weapon, are all within that bill. So we need a federal component and provincial, I think, and really push this, because maybe they need to hear from all municipalities, because they seem to think this is the way communities are wanting it, and I can't see that communities across Canada would support reductions of these kinds of mandatory sentencing.
Again, and I'm happy that we're seeing a reduction in the mental health issues in our community. I know it was, and again, this is not only our community. Everybody we talked to actually was conversation that we had at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities about health issues, mental health issues, and how we'll move forward. But is there anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
I'd like to say thank you to you guys for doing what you're doing all the time, and just know that, you know, you guys feel free to reach out too, and, you know, there's people to talk to here too. Works both ways, right? So we should be need to support you in the best way we can as well, right? So just want to say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Or is Mr. Stack gonna come up? Do you have anything to say? Hello.
Good to see you, Tim.
Good. Well, Cindy and Patrick, welcome. I've seen Patrick out on patrol a few times now, and Cindy, you taking on some of the role that Terry had in the municipal side. Good luck, and if you need to reach out to anybody, call CAO Leggett. But we do appreciate you guys coming in, and just keep on the good fight, guys and girls, and we'll see where we end up here. But like I said, it was funny at the conference talking to people from all over this country, and I mean coast to coast to coast. Nunavut, talking to people, and they got problems, the same problems that we're seeing, and it's funny that different levels of government can't recognize this and what it's costing society. It's just, but we'll keep trying our side, and you guys keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the presentation, and we'll see you soon, I guess.
Thanks so much. It's good to see you all. Thanks.
Okay. Is everybody good to keep going right now? Okay. Up next, Director Rowe, Highway Signage Update.
Thank you, Worship and Council. You have a memo attached for your viewing. This is on the highway signage proposals. On March 31st, the town of Vegreville issued RFP 2022-001 highway signage on the Alberta Purchasing Connection. The RFP was open to submissions for 30 days with a deadline of April 29th, 2022. The RFP requested proposals for 2 replacement signs for the Visit Vegreville signs on Highway 16, and we added in an addition of 2 gateway signs north and south of Vegreville along Highway 857. Contractors were asked to prepare designs that align with the town of Vegreville branding and meet Alberta transportation requirements. We also requested that contractors design the highway pylon signage with potential lighting options so the signs are more visible at the 110 km/h highway speeds. The RFP resulted in 5 proposals being submitted based on the project budget of $100,000. We opted to focus on the replacement of the highway pylon signs on Highway 16 for 2022. Of the 5 proposals, 3 companies provided options for highway pylon signs within the allotted budget. Those were Blanchette Neon, High Signs, and PM Signs. So the document you have here, there's a note page on the second page for you. These 10 pages are a synopsis of the 5 documents and the 3 main ones that we reviewed. And to kind of give you a scope, they were in 90 pages, the RFPs in length from each of them. So very, very detailed. So what Leslie and I have done is put together the top 3 and different options, costing, that we will go through and have a discussion. Ultimately, what today is to look at design, like which ones meets council's, I guess, consensus, which ones you like. Senior leadership has gone through this in great detail, and so there is a recommendation at the back. So the first one is Blanchett Neon on page 3. They provided 2 concepts for the highway signs with 2 options each. Blanchett Neon has proposed an 18-week schedule from design to final cleanup. So concept 1, option 1. So these prices are for 2 complete signs. This is $99,548. And you can see the first sign is basically it has the Visit Vegreville. It has the Pasinka imposed in the background. We have the Trinities at the bottom. It's a lot of blue. And all these colors are approved colors to our color palette that was provided by Marketing and Communications. Concept 1, option 2. So you have the black background with Visit Vegreville and the outline Trinities at the bottom. This 128,316, this is also for the backlighting. And we'll have some discussion at the very end about lighting. But the option 2 is the same price as option 1, just they're with or the top price is without lighting, the bottom is with lighting. Okay. Next page. So this is Blanchett Neon Concept 2. So option 1, this is a pedestal style sign with the Visit Vegreville, very similar. The difference is the first one has our logo, or I guess it's our social media logo on the top, and concept or option 2 has a 3D Pasinka made out of aluminum that would be on the top rail.
Could I just stop you for a second?
You sure can.
Blanchett Neon option concept 2, there's no lighting on either one, correct?
No, this one doesn't have any lighting options at all. And that's simply just because of the construction of it, that we could do our own internal lighting options in terms of lights in front of it, but this one doesn't have the backlighting on it.
So, again, just to stop here, so an option could be to have a couple of floodlights in front of it off a solar cell shining up onto that concept number 2, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 5. This is the High Signs Company. They provided two design concepts with 3 options. They had non-illuminated, illuminated with solar, and illuminated hardline power. Their proposal outlined 12 to 13 week schedule. Concept 1, option 1. These are for the 2 signs. It's a generic looking sign. I don't know if it met our color. It is a part of the color palette that, but not as bright as we would have liked, or that I personally would like, I guess. Concept 1, option 2. This is with the lighting, and this is the 109,000. This is the solar lighting option, and option 3 is the hardwired lighting option. So I guess maybe, can I jump in there and explain the hardwiring right now, maybe? Just, so, the hardwiring, the power that runs, there's power lines that runs parallel to, adjacent to the sign locations. It's an ATCO line. It's a 25,000 kV line, and in order to...
Big lights.
So in order to get power to these signs, we'd have to do a step-down transformer and a drop and a meter system, which is not including in these prices. I haven't started that discussion with ATCO. I got a ballpark figure, but it's quite a process even just to get a quote from ATCO for this. So take into consideration when we're doing these the wired, that this is not including the ATCO charges that we're going to incur. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just maybe on the subject of lighting directly. You know, it's coming up later in the presentation too, but both of the lighting options had challenges to them, I guess. The first one being, this extremely high voltage line, and then the need for a transformer and all that directly to it. The solar one, what we came to find out from the consultants and the companies that bid, is they're not just the little solar panels like we see on a speed reader or something like that. In order to accomplish the lighting for signs of this size and scope, we're actually talking an array of solar panels that are going to be near the site itself, which comes with snow load concerns and wind and some of that stuff. But it also the aesthetics of having a great big solar thing next to it. So just keep that in mind, guys. We'll talk about that in a few minutes here.
The smaller solar panel in these presentations is 10 feet by 16 feet, so, which is bigger than some of the signs. So, and that is to accommodate illumination and battery backup for our harsh, cold winters in our extremely cold months. So high signs, we're on page 6, the high signs concept 2, option 1. This is 69,322. They have integrated a Ukrainian style background for the signs. And that particular sign, option 2, with the solar illumination is 136, 168. And the hardwired is 105,535. Now we're moving on to the final one, PM signs. They provided 3 options. Each option can be illuminated by adding the solar power package, and you'll see the dollars on there. PM signs predicted the work to be completed in 12 weeks. So option 1, so they've got a brick style at the bottom with the gold and white, and they have the, option 1 has the Pesinka in the corner. Option 2, they've taken the Pesinka out, put Trinities on the bottom, and they've made the Visit Vegreville in the home of the world's largest Pesinka in larger letters. So these are all, again, with the solar package. The numbers are there. And on page 8, this is their option 3. So basically the same thing. They just went with the blue and with the Pesinka in the corner. And the prices are all consistent with PM signs. On page 9, we have a financial implications, so you can see all of them, all the options put together. On page 10, so some council considerations. After discussion with other communities who recently installed signs, there is a lot of discussion with regard to the cost benefits of sign illumination. Solar power, while available, is costly because of the need for the large solar panel and batteries to illuminate the sign during our cold and dark winter months. During the summer months, the days are longer and illumination doesn't kick in until late at night. And a consideration is also going to be the maintenance for the solar panel and the batteries as we move on, and the lifespan of both. I talked about the costs for direct power from ATCO. So my questions for council for discussion, what timeframes is the town looking to capture the majority of the traffic attention? And this was when I got into discussions with some other communities. Our draw, is it, is our major draw in the summer months that we want to pull people off the highway? Is this sign going to pull people off the highway? When I made the presentation to council in 2020 for the whole wayfinding project, and we started discussing this, one other item that was brought up was the provincial traffic signs that outline the businesses that we have in our community. So our fuel, our food, our other services, accommodations, and that is what ultimately brings people off the highway into a community like ours, as compared to if you have to drive right through. Some municipalities, they have no option but to drive through. Where we're challenged is on the bypass. So the signage and the whole concept of getting people to pull off the highway, these signs, first and foremost, is basically to give that bit of a wow factor to our community, that, because I mean, that we've all had this discussion. Our signs right now are terrible, and best words I can.
They were good in their
In the
time,
day,
and it's
yeah.
just time for new ones. We
Yeah.
don't have anything that's terrible in this community.
So,
We're good.
as you're driving to a community, you see that initial sign, and this is what, we want you to do, is visit Vegreville, right? So we've got this nice sign. Then we have other signs that say, here's what we have. And now as motorists, you're making that, every time you pass one of those signs, you're making a decision whether or not you're going to exit or you're just going to continue bypassing. So with that, again, when is that major amount of traffic that we're trying to pull people off? Is it, ultimately it's 365 days a year, but in terms of bang for our buck, are we trying to capitalize on those summer months that people, during daytime? Are we trying to capitalize on people in the middle of the night to pull them into Vegreville when we don't have a lot of businesses that are open? So again, this is just for discussion, and I want to hear everybody's discussion on this. There is a potential to use reflective material on these signs, which as a motorist, then at nighttime, it is going to be, your headlights are going to reflect and light up the signs. We could use we can use smaller solar lights or smaller floodlights. Again, there's still going to be a power cost of bringing it, down from that 25 kV line. So there's different options when it comes to this. So as a council, is the backlighting, is this absolutely something that's 100% necessary, or can we look at reducing the costs and look at other ways of brightening it up? So first things first, I guess, for you, Mr. Mayor, do you want to look at, we need to pick a design that council's in favor of out of these?
Yeah, so we can get to the lighting issue in a while. First of all, can we put on the one coming from the west going east, can it say via Lloydminster, and then the one coming from the east going west, can it say via Edmonton? Are we allowed to put that on on our sign? Because the highway will not put that back up on the highway sign.
Well, they will at a huge cost, but, yes, there is potential to inform visitors that, this is Lloydminster via Vegreville. Is that what you're talking about?
If there's any way that we could let them know that you can drive right to the community, that's all. What do you have?
Well, I was just going to wind the clock back. I didn't bring my portfolio with all the signage because, of course, this has been a conversation for several years. And of course, we had to wait a little bit. But what the mayor is talking about was the three different parts to this portion of the wayfinding, which included the replacement of the signage at both the east and west end of town, and potentially north and south as well, because we've got 4 major ways to be able to come into the community. The highway signage, that was a second version of the conversation that we had, so that was after the first grouping of us met back in 2020 and made recommendations. So it was through tourism, chamber, economic development, some community members and some council were appointed to a working group. So that second conception was with economic development, talking about the blue signage that was at either end of town that you're talking about. And the third one was what the mayor is talking about, is the actual highway signage that was the Lloydminster via Vegreville. So there were 3 different portions to it. I didn't realize that they were all going to I didn't realize they were going to take this long. So I guess part of that conversation too is really the reason that we want it is for an economic driver, and the pricing and the concepts that were referred or recommended March of 2020 predate some of those of us that are assembled here, but some of them are from Blanchette Neon, and they are considerably more money for considerably less of a sign. So I don't know, I kind of feel like this is a challenging conversation. So I don't know that we've necessarily addressed what the mayor has asked. Like, I don't know if we can do that with highways.
What's that, sorry?
I don't know if we can do that, because I think that my understanding was at the time that was going to be a conversation with Alberta Transportation to see if those highway signages could be changed, both the blue ones that would have additional services like hotels, restaurants, businesses that were locally available. The second part would be the green signage on the highway that would be the Lloydminster via Vegreville and vice versa, depending on the way that we went. And the third portion was the referral, which resulted in this RFP that was put out March 31st that you've done in this year. So
when I did the wayfinding plan in 2020, we discussed, and one of the options I had brought up is because the original through economic development that Blanchette Neon did, they gave 16 different signs, and the one I think that was ultimately that was trying to be pitched to council, we're in the $150,000 range for the largest sign. I had just suggested that we can get a lower sign that is not as extravagant but still will meet much better than what we have now. So council had agreed to put that $100,000 in the reserves. So these signs that you're seeing, they're in the $50,000 range as opposed to the $150,000 range per sign. And
Okay, let's just stop. Meg, I'm pretty sure that there was $200,000 allotted to the 2 signs is what we put away. We did have a report from Dale's department regarding the conversation with transportation. They're not willing to put the sign back up. And we did have a conversation about the services and were we going to go ahead and help subsidize the businesses that wanted to be out there. We had that conversation. So like a Walmart never puts their name out there, but other communities have it, and it's because the community's paid for it. That's a whole different thing, and moving forward, we're gonna have that conversation. Are we gonna help subsidize? Because after the 3 years of paying for it, it's basically cost you nothing to have the sign on, your name on the transportation out there, on the services and what's available in town. So I do believe that we had put in the budget $200,000 for these 2 outside signs. So if we're talking the other thing, all I asked the question was, could we put that on one of our signs ourselves? But I don't know if it would be tacky looking or what it would be. So we will get to that moving forward. So for today's discussion, I think what we should do is just keep it to these two signs. And if we need an update from what Director Lefebvre had brought back to us, we'll get Director Lefebvre to bring back what the answers were from transportation. So everybody will be in on it to hear it again. I know, Councillor Bullock, you haven't heard it about what their answer was to these questions that we had, and neither has Councillor Curtis. But for today, if we can just stick the topic to these two outside of town signs. I know that Councillor Riddick has it right up right now. The signs that we were looking at were quite a bit different than what is projected here. I would just, does everybody have page 9? Does everybody have a favorite and a number 2, what they're seeing so far? So if you could start here with Councillor Berry, if you could tell me what your number 1 is and what your number 2 is.
Thank you. The aspect is I agree with the aspect of, do we really need it to be lit, backlit, shined upon? Because most of the traffic that we really want probably is in the summer and during the day. I like simplicity. I think that we can have a very good design. I rather like the Blanchett Concept 2, Option 2 with the Pasanka, or back up the Option 1. I like the simplicity of just the simple sign.
Okay, so number 1 is Concept, Blanchard Neon, Concept 2, Option 2.
Yeah, that's
And your,
my
and your number 2 would be?
4.
Would be the Concept 1, Concept,
I like the 2 pillars with the sign, and it's a matter of whether you want the
okay.
spend the extra money for the Pasanka on it, or whether you just want the simple design on the arch.
Okay, Mag, sorry,
Sorry to interrupt, but
Director Saskew.
I want to clarify what the budget is for these particular signs. You were talking about the 200,000 budget. The budget that is carried forward from prior year in reserves for this particular highway signage is 100,000. So the option 2, yes. So the option 2 here for 120, we would be $21,000 over budget. So
We're over budget on every one of the signs.
I just want to be clear that, like, for the 2 signs, it's budgeted and carried forward from reserve for 100,000. So I don't know if that'll change anyone's thoughts on, but I just want to be clear on that.
I think the only option that is within budget is probably Concept 2, Option 1 of Blanchard Neon.
Okay,
The other sign is over budget.
let's just leave the lighting out of it altogether for right now. Councillor Lemko.
Yeah, this, I agree that it was 100,000 for this year's budget, but if we go back 2 years, you will see that there was 200,000 approved to get these done.
Yep.
And although they never got to fruition, there was 200,000 that was placed for the signage in there. So if you go back a year or 2 years or yeah.
I know that. It was 200,000 when we first started because we were close to $100,000 a sign is where we were. So while Director Saskew's doing that, I'm just going to keep going ahead here just because I want to get it narrowed down. We're going to talk about a sign where we're going to be at. The lighting has nothing to do with it right now because we'll get to that. If we want to light it, we'll light it. Okay. Councillor Bullock, can you give me your 2 options?
Okay, my first option would be Concept 1, Option 1. I'm a firm believer in the culture of the community, and the Pasanka needs to be attached to it.
Okay.
And the next one for me would be Concept 2, Option 2.
Okay. Yep. Oh, that's it. Blanchett Neon?
Yes, Blanchard Neon.
Okay,
Are
thank
both
you.
of my options.
Okay, for me, the first one is actually PM signs option 3, because I like that it will then tie into the brick of the ones we aren't replacing. And option 2 for me would be through Blanchett, and it would be Concept 1.
Concept 1, Option 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Rudick.
really like any of them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I don't want to be a negative Nelly, but I don't like them as much as the old ones. I realize that maybe I have a historical attachment to it, but I don't think so. Even just bringing it up, I thought maybe I was just being negative when I looked at them on the agenda package originally. They're not as, I realize that we have new logo, which is important to be able to change the look of it. I don't really like any of them very much. So I have a hard time. I have a hard time picking from them. If I was going to pick one, I would probably pick PM Signs option 2, but I would want it blended with PM Signs option 3. So I want a hybrid of all of these. And then my second and third choice of the options would be the Concept 1, option 2 of Blanchette.
Okay, so PM Signs option 2 is your first choice?
Yes, with the caveat that I really,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we don't have a caveat in 1 and 2. So I know where you're going. We sent this out to a bunch of companies, and this is their designs that are coming back. So we can discuss that later, but moving forward, I know the sign that you brought up there is the one you like. But what would be your second option in the, and I know that you, it's hard for you to say because you don't like any of them, but.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I said the or the Blanchette Neon Concept 1, option 1.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Lemko.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a question through to Director Rowe. I don't see the size of this sign anywhere, like, so we're picking a sign that's kind of like,
Okay, so Blanchette Neon is 12 feet high, 16 feet wide. High signs are 8 feet high, 14 feet wide, and PM signs are 13 feet high by 16 feet wide.
thank you.
Really big.
So I'm Blanchette Neon, Concept 1, option 1 is my first. And my second is the same company, Blanchette Neon, Concept 2, option 2.
Okay, well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Your Worship, yeah, it said, but according to my tally there, it's option 1, Concept 1, option 1, Blanchette.
Well, without Councilor Curtis or myself voting, it is. Yeah, I'm pretty good at math, too. That being said, it's a lot different than the first proposed that we had from Blanchette Neon, which Councilor Rudick had just brought up here. I mean, I know you're all happy with that one at the time, and I know a lot of people didn't get to see it, but at $200,000 is what we were thinking, and that's the one that we really like. Just move up a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and is there any reason that you think, that they didn't go back to that design, or you asked them to be around $50,000 each?
Yeah, in the proposal, because we had 100,000, and when, in their proposal, there's one sign there that looks similar to this, and I think it's the 54,000 range. That was the one that because that's what I presented in my wayfinding plan, and adding about this and the other signs. So I had added that in, that this is what we could get for approximately $100,000 for 2 signs. And my understanding is that was what I was supposed to do, was to look at getting an RFP based on that similar style and the $50,000 budget per sign.
Okay, well, I seriously don't when you told us at a meeting that we can probably do these for 50,000 a piece, is the first time that I didn't remember or recall anybody from council saying that we wanted to scale it back to $50,000 each. So Director Saskew, have you found anything from our previous budget?
I have 100,000 and it's coming out of general reserve, so we've never actually levied
Okay,
ratepayers for the 100,000. So we have 100,000 coming out of general reserve is what I have in front of me today. Like, I can go back and do some digging, but that'll require
no,
budget benders.
I know that it wasn't a budget line, and we talked about it at the budget, and if that's where it was coming from, that's fine too. Councillor Barry, what do you recollect? Was it 100,000 or 200,000 that we talked about, or was it the 100,000?
Oh, your worship, from my recollection, when we were first talking about the signs and the first concepts of the committee, because the committee is the one that actually was kind of picking between the 16 or so and kind of put a finger on one. In order to be able to actually achieve it, it was going to take about 200,000. Because I believe the signs were more expensive at that time than the one that we were actually looking at. But they were also very high, very large, and actually very attractive. I'm kind of along the lines of Councillor Rudick. I really don't care for any of these.
We were looking at. Could you email it to everybody right now?
Send it. So I'll just send this to everybody here. But like Councillor Barry just said too, it was the ones that the one that was recommended. There was a couple that were recommended from the committee, had digital right in the middle of it. So
Yeah,
it is different than what we're seeing here. And really, I guess my challenge is that what Blanchett put forward before, I prefer what they did last time.
so send those to
Yeah,
everybody,
I'll
but take a
send this
look at
right
it.
now.
And what do you recall on this and what was
So,
proposed?
for what I recalled was that we actually originally had said, yeah, okay, we go ahead with the 200,000. It wasn't a unanimous decision. It was a bit of a back and forth because it seemed like a lot. But then it was my understanding that as we went forward this next time, because it was presented to us that if we were going to end the idea of the digital component, because you weren't going to see it as you drove down the highway, that we could potentially do it for around 100,000. So I didn't know for sure if we had actually reduced that amount, but I did think we were spending 100,000 in this one. But I know at one point we had agreed to, and I think it was like a 4-3 vote, agreeing to the 200,000.
Yeah, I know that we did disagree with the digital. We looked at putting things that were happening in town digitally being scrolled across that, and we said no to that because it was fairly pricey. With that being said, first of all, we have budgeted right now $100,000 coming out of a reserve for this project. And that's not gonna change unless we decide to take more money out of there and send this whole thing back and have it redesigned. So, okay, so now we can all go to our email we just received. Thank you very much. Did you send it to the staff too?
Yeah, I did. Should be there right away. Oh, and I'm sorry, I don't want to make it seem, I realize that you've done a considerable amount of work here to prepare it, and it really, my issue is more about the design, which is not something that has been created by you.
So, option one, number one, that was the sign that I presented in my wayfinding plan, and when we talked about getting that $100,000, that we could do that for approximately $50,000 a sign. And so that's, because Blanchett Neon made this, I can't submit this in an RFP. I took that concept and I said, this is what we're looking at, and we have a $100,000 budget, and these were the different designs that the companies gave back, because I can't send that, plus that's the old logo in.
Yeah. And then we understand that because that was their design, you couldn't put it in the RFP. Jameson, did you get an email from Councilor Curtis? Okay, good. So, these prices on here are each, okay? So if you're looking at these from 2 years ago, So one is fairly close. The 5 or 6 is fairly close.
And again, 5 was a secondary example that,
Yeah, so number 5 ends up being option 2. And again, the size is pretty much the same, I think. Overall, it's oh my God.
You know what the hard thing between the first one and this one here is just something in the way they displayed it. Like theoretically, we're saying like number 5 is the same as the one concept, but somehow in here it looks modern but classy. It has an overall total different feel. Like if I wouldn't stop myself and recognize that it's the same, to me they don't look the same. One looks cheesy compared to the other one.
I just think it's the color that's in here that, yeah, I like the fact that an option, concept 2, option 2, that the ag is more slanted, the way it appears on its stand. I really like that. So,
I think I almost like that now more, that option.
and the original presentation from Blanchett, that was our old color palette too.
Yeah.
So
if we take into consideration the size of number 5 on this new email you've seen, is everybody like that one? Would everybody be happy moving forward with that concept, with the ag on an angle? Councillor Barry, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out just which one you're looking at here.
That one
Oh,
This one here, number 5.
compared to the one that you liked on the original, that one
I'm
that was
trying to figure out
presented today.
where you're saying the egg on the angle.
Right here,
So in the first one, like in
on this,
Or on the new one.
that one of your favorites.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yes, now I see.
so the only difference
I still.
in this,
I was gonna say, that was your favorite. So
the
yes.
only difference in this would be the new hashtag or whatever what are we calling that thing, Jameson, with the V and the little
the social media logo.
yeah, the social media logo at the top. The ag would be there.
Yeah, I do think I like this one more now.
Yeah.
Now, when you go back and see it to a different picture and know the size, I definitely like that.
And the difference you'll see also is that all these signs say Town of Vegreville, where we incorporated Visit Vegreville, because we have Welcome to Vegreville signs in town. The premise behind these signs on the highway is for them to visit Vegreville, not to say Town of Vegreville. So we wanted them specifically to visit Vegreville.
I noticed that, and I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that too.
I mean, because you're putting a question, you're asking somebody.
Yeah, it's a call to action.
Exactly, call to action. So sorry, Jameson, is council? I got this other thing going. I'm running about a couple of things here. Is he on? Is he?
No, he sent an email asking about some confusion when it comes to the Zoom link. I've sent him an email back. He's yet to try to log on, and he's yet to get back to me. So I'm keeping an eye on it, and if he pops up on your screen, he's officially in the meeting.
Okay, so everybody. Okay, sorry, Councillor Bullock, go ahead.
From the email that Councillor Rudick sent me, what was the sign that was picked at that time that everybody liked?
Well, no, we disagree with the digital. We did take the digital option out because we just didn't like the price on it. So actually, it wasn't the one that was, because we didn't pick one because we had to send it out to have, and he couldn't share these drawings when he sent it to companies for a bid, right? Because this is property of Blanchett Neon. So then they come up with their own ideas. So there was option 2 was okay.
I like option 2.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. See it, yeah.
One thing there too, folks. So first, we apologize for the graphics. The graphics on the computer from Councilor Rudick's email are much better. We got this stuff on paper by a series of photocopies.
Yeah.
Submissions.
Fair enough.
The ones they sent us were actually much better, but to get it from the RFP submissions into here.
That makes
copy,
sense.
So that, and then for these options, you notice they're sort of putting those stone boulder accents. I would disregard those two. I don't
Yeah.
think the ministry would allow us to put big boulders on the side of the road like that, so.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, definitely just look at the sign.
So if you look, sorry, but if you look at option 1 on the email you just received, it is very close to, any of the squared ones that are on here, right? With the brick on the bottom and stuff like that. So now you put it in perspective, you get to see it a little better on this, the way it's presented on there, right?
And also, just for all of council, so the wave, that was to mirror our Welcome to Vegreville signs that we have, the brick ones that have the wave. That's why that was originally put in, and we wanted to keep that design concept. So that's why all of these, or the majority of them, have that wave that breaks up the top and the bottom.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say something from the email that I received from Councillor Rudick. When you go further down in that document, those pages down where they actually put the image alongside the highway, the tall ones stand out much better, in my opinion.
Like down, yeah, partways, that's what you're saying.
So according to what I see there, those ones are about 16 feet tall compared to our existing sign there, which is, I don't know, guessing from the picture, maybe 10.
Well, they don't show that option I like beside the highway. Number 5 is the option I like, but.
Yeah, they don't have that one showing.
Can I ask, while we're looking at them, and I'm sorry, Director Rowe, for sort of hijacking your presentation, not sort of, I did hijack it, I'm sorry. But it's hard for me to reconcile the two images, or what I previously had imagined was coming to us. So I did try to set this aside and look at it again, and I still do feel more attached to the original version. My question is about, now we've got home of the world's largest pisinka with Ukrainian Easter egg on there. Is that something that has been recommended? Have we changed some of our other signage, like with the definition or explanation of pisinka? Was it on?
So when I got into conversations, the average Joe probably does not know what a pisinka is. So we're just saying world's largest Easter egg because that is something that will attract an average motorist or assist in helping them make that decision. Oh, world's largest Easter egg. You know, now and
Zanka, they may think it's some sort of like a
coffee
or a pocket full of pizza stuff. Yeah,
So,
I get you.
Councilor Rudick, and this is all part and parcel of the psychology of driving. So the sign, the original sign is basically to capture the driver's attention and say, this isn't, you know, right off the hop, this is a nice sign. This could be a really nice community. Now you see signs that say, oh, look at all the amenities that they have. Then you've got this exit sign that says, you know, exit to Vegreville. Would via Lloydminster help? Yes, it absolutely would. But as we move forward with Google Maps that people are using, people are starting to know that you can, you know, you're going to go through, you know, and eventually that will become the standard of maps. That, you know, you just know you can go through to Lloydminster or you can come through to Edmonton, you know, the other way. The idea is to pull them off because we have amenities that are off the highway that they cannot see. So this is just step one in that driver psychology, that this is a nice town. And when I did the wayfinding, remember I told everybody about the order of the signs, the fuel, the food, the other services, that it is all part of psychology that makes people, you know what, I'm gonna pull off because I know all the stuff is there. It's just like if you've pulled a trailer, if you see a Walmart, you know there's room to pull off and park a trailer, right? You've got all these things, and it's all a part of psychology. So the extravagance of the sign really is, it's driven by what you want. These signs, I mean, I feel captures that visit Vegreville. This is the home of the world's largest Easter egg. We want you to start thinking about pulling over, and here's what we're gonna offer you now, when you make that determination to pull into our community.
So, to move forward here, so back when this was presented to us, what was the cost of the taller one?
So the one, and I believe.
41,000 was a fairly tall one with no lights.
I mean, if I recall right,
two.
the one that the committee liked was the gold one and with the sign. So it would have been, it's down, it's page, it has a 2 on it with an A and B. The one with that says fireworks on it, on the red, does everybody see that one? So it's page, right below page 16. That was the one that was originally presented, and the one with the fireworks was 125,000 each, for each sign.
Well, that had the digital in it.
Yeah, and those were 98,000 from what I recall.
But the digital at that time didn't have the power.
Price, you're right. So that we took that out. So that's when we talked about back that we were gonna go $100,000 each sign, so $200,000. But in the budget we have today, which is coming out of reserve, and is 100,000.
And that was because when I presented the wayfinding plan, I offered council option number 1 for 54,000, that we could do that for probably in the neighborhood of 100 grand. And that's what I was told to, that you have $50,000 assigned to work with, and that fit within.
So if I vote right now, we don't have to worry about Councillor Curtis because we could, he's not gonna make it. Okay, so I too like, the Blanchett neon. I do like, concept 2, option 2 with the ag in it. But that would be without any signage, that'd be $21,000 over our budget. But I do like it with the ag on an angle.
Yeah.
So, and if this is basically the same one that we're seeing here, so.
It makes more sense now in the height when I saw it in the other concept.
And I do like the visit. I mean, that's, as soon as we got this in our package, I'm like, wow, that's perfect, no matter what. And I like our new logo better. It's more modern, it's fresh. So I am going to right now say that I would like to go with concept 1, option 1, but I'd like to have the conversation about the ag being put in there, so.
Which one?
You mean concept 2, option 2?
We only have money for the first one, right? And now seeing what it looks like here it'll be our colors in there. So, I mean, I'm happy with that.
But that's not that one.
Well, it's pretty darn close to this
No,
one.
but you're on concept 2.
Oh, sorry.
Concept 1 is that one.
Oh, sorry, yeah, you're right.
No, I don't like that one.
Concept 2, option 1, yeah,
Yes, okay.
yeah.
But it's over.
But now seeing this, I was wrong. Yeah, concept 1, option 1 is that squared one.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
And that's the one that's got the most votes right now.
yeah, but now that everybody has a chance to look at this again,
Yeah, I vote for the same one you just did.
so,
Concept 2, option 2?
Yeah.
That's the one with the 8.
yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, thank you. And bear in mind, folks, if you guys come to a consensus, it's just a simple motion to have the budget.
Oh, I get that.
We're talking about a 15, 20-year asset, make the decision that suits the best.
Okay, so now seeing these other signs, knowing now, because the graphics and stuff on these, they're terrible, and you can't really put them in, this is a lot better to look at.
Yeah.
So I'll start again with Councillor Barry. Where would you like to go?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'll stick with what I said to start with, concept Blanchard, concept 2, option 2, but I would leave the pillars as nice and clean and neat. We don't need the
Reflective?
the symbols on them. You know, they got the what do we call them, those Trinidad's or?
Trinities?
We really don't need those on the pillars,
Okay, but you like them
but I like,
on the logo, we had them
I
on our
like them
logo.
on the logo, definitely. I wouldn't touch the logo.
Okay,
But the pillars could just be clean. So concept 2, option 2, Blanchard.
okay. I'll move back to, Counselor Bullock.
Concept 2, option 2.
Okay,
Concept 2, option 2.
okay. Do you like anything here?
Well, I do have a question again, so then I could live with this one. If we take the triads off of the pillars, that will make it look cleaner.
Yeah.
I do have a question, because, you know, even the stuff that we have in Go East, it does say home of the world's largest pisinka in here. And it does say that at the park, so I just wanna make sure that we're consistent if we're gonna do marketing, whatever that looks like, using the logic that you explained, and, I mean, I agree that everybody uses their phone. They may not know what a pisinka is, but they will Google that.
Yeah.
In that concept 2, option 2 is the fine print in the yellow that actually has.
Yes, and so that.
What she'd like to
but
do
my point
is remove Ukrainian Easter egg.
Yeah, so,
Oh, I see. Okay.
So,
my question would be is, if this is how we're marketing it, this is in Go East, so,
So the difference is that when you're looking at that when you're looking at that brochure, you're seeing pictures of it, it's throughout the whole book, and it's also described in there what it is. When you're driving down the highway at 110, there is no definition to see what it is. That
There's a nice egg.
I was gonna say the egg there.
There's a nice Easter egg.
Okay, you know what? We'll have this conversation moving forward. What's your, which one do you like now?
I will agree that it
Con-
looks cleaner. Yes, I'll
So like this
acquiesce.
one with the ag on
Yep,
its side,
I'll acquiesce, yes.
tilted. Counselor Lemko.
Your worship, concept 2, option 2, I'll go with the majority.
Okay. Do you want it to say Easter egg?
It doesn't have to for me.
Yes or no? It's all, that's what I'm looking for. Okay.
Remove the Ukrainian Easter egg part. Leave just home of the world's largest pisinka in there.
Okay.
I'm okay with the removal too.
I'm not gonna ask you.
I just said make it consistent.
Okay.
So whatever we're doing, it has to be the same.
But I didn't ask you yet.
I know, I told you, I was on.
Counselor Lemko. Oh my God.
Yeah, you can remove it if
Okay, so it doesn't have to say that down there if we have the ag on the top, so that might save us a little bit of money. Is anybody concerned with the pillars themselves not having a look of a rock or anything like that on it? You know, like would we like to see, like we've seen in some other things, like these with the rock on the bottom and stuff, the pillars to be chiseled out? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Bullock.
I'm just curious about how tall is that sign? Because I don't see that anywhere.
Well,
Just,
it is 14 feet by 16.
so the one that we're looking at here is at 13.5 and 14 feet wide. So this one here was gonna be
a little bit smaller.
a little bit taller. It'll be a little bit taller.
I think you take those trinities on concept 2, option 2, and you work with reflective, just to make sure it draws attention to it. That's where I'm going with this. And with those pillars, if you do something attractive with that design and make it reflective, it's gonna draw the eye at night.
Okay.
So go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Worship, and that's a good segue into the next sort of conversation. The use of the reflective paint. So because of the blue and in our color palette, we're thinking that we can use a reflective paint that's very similar to what the ministry uses on their blue signage, and that just catches the light and bings it right back. Two reasons for that, and main one being the cost savings, of course, but you know, number two is the idea of the window of opportunity that we're actually looking to capture people. And we figure during the day, especially the summer, our busy tourist season, lighting's not an issue because sunrise at 7, it's dark 10-ish. So are we spending all of that money to Director Rowe's point, to try and attract tourists in the very late twilight hours who may be coming to a town where the majority of our businesses are already closed, sort of past 10 p.m. And in the winter, yes, it'll have a little bit better effect in the winter, but that's not really a high tourist season in any event. So our feeling and our internal conversation was that to recommend to you guys that it be that sharp ministry, highly reflective type paint that we use, and that sort of addresses the lighting issue.
Okay, we're gonna hear from Director Saskew first on some money issues.
Okay, I have solved the $200,000 budget conundrum. So in 2021, it was budgeted as 200,000, but also capital project coming out of general operating reserves. So in the end, it didn't impact taxpayers because it was coming out of reserves. For 2022, the case was presented that we were just gonna do 50,000 per sign, and so then it was budgeted as 100,000 out of reserves. So my question to you is, with this, if we're going slightly over, should I have an RCD for you for next council meeting to say within $30,000 over, that will still just transfer from general operating?
And I'll let you know once I get a consensus here.
Okay.
Thank you. So is it, okay, go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
Just want to say something about the reflective. So at night, you know, I know you're not, you didn't, Mr. Leggett, you didn't live here in the community before. And the highway's quite busy at night around here still, and there's lots of people driving through at night, lots of truck drivers. I want those truck drivers stopping into town to wake up in the morning and buy breakfast at the restaurants. That's how I feel. So that's where I'm going at, that I think a reflective is really important.
Yeah.
So, because I want those people to still see Vegreville's here. They'll glow in the lights there, but still visit Vegreville. That's my reasoning for that.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time on the highway many years past, and reflective works.
And we agree, and we want something that's gonna have a lighting component without having to spend, $30,000.
Is there
a sign
anybody
to
that
get
wants
it.
to explore the options of the ATCO power supply with a monthly bill, or a 16 by 14 foot solar panel? That don't make no sense to me, because somebody would take that in a week, it'd be gone. Okay, so is anybody opposed to going with an option of the reflective paint? Seeing nobody being opposed to it, if you can get them to give us a new drawing, tell them they're about $20,000 over what the next one was, or what our favorite was, and just get back to us as quickly as you can. So, that being said, I don't think that we need to have that motion yet on spending more money. So we're taking that part about the Ukrainian Easter egg out, and we're taking the triads off of the pillars. Like, triads are about 5,000 apiece. Go ahead, Councillor Riddick.
I'm just curious, you said 18 weeks from design to final cleanup. So really right now, this would mean maybe before snow flies if we pulled the pin today.
We asked to have it done 2 years ago.
I realize
Let's not
that.
get all antsy.
Well, I'm just a little concerned based on how conveniently at this point too, it's, supply chain issues, all that kind of stuff. But if we're not going with solar right now, that's always something that we could do in the future too. So I would assume that Blanchette Neon, which specializes in the ability to be able to have neon signs, that they would also be able to have the possibility in the future to be able to add to it. Because again, this is an investment. I think that old sign is from the 70s or the 80s. So it's more than served its purpose. So I think we're buying something that's going to be here for a long time, hopefully.
Yeah. So basically, I think the only really good option here would be for the lighted, if it has reflective, is that we could maybe move in some lights to point at it later.
Yeah.
With a smaller panel that somebody's not, maybe we could even put it on the backside of the egg, or put it on a pillar facing the other way, where it's not something that people can just run and grab. Because if you put that out there, like I know lots of gas sheds and leases here, they lose their solar panels all the time. People just go and take them because what they're worth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an option we can look at down the road. Councillor Lemko?
Okay, just for clarity purposes, the triads on the pillars, I'm not against having them there. I think it adds something. And it might pique the interest of the traveler to say, what are these airplanes doing on the swing? I think it adds a little bit at the bottom. I think it's kind of speaks to the visit Vegreville with the triads on the top right corner. And if these are reflective, I think, along with Councillor Bullock, so consensus, I like them.
Okay, you like them?
I find them unbalanced because there's two on one and one on the other, and I like things to be balanced, but it doesn't matter.
No, I need yes or no. This is how we vote.
Okay, no.
Okay. Councillor Bullock?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
You like them?
Sure.
Okay.
I said no.
I said no. So no wins. Can I suggest that you get a hold of Blanchette Neon, take that sign, have them a better rendering for us with the ag on its side with and without the triads, and a price, and get it for his next meeting, please?
And have them put it in the same, like that email from Councillor Rudick, put it on the highway and show us what it looks like.
Well, in this, what we're seeing here, it's been photocopied a few times or whatever before it got to us. So, yeah, so again, tell them to do their best work and tell them to sharpen their pencil, and we'll make a decision right away. Okay, we're all good?
Good.
Yeah.
There we go.
And, sorry, final word? I think what you were saying, Councillor Bullock, is the part that would be helpful is being able to see it in real time. So, Director Rowe, like page 11, if it's that superimposed in the highway picture, is helpful for us to be able to see. Then you see the scale.
And I have that.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yes, Sandra. Okay, because I'm just looking at the agenda, we're gonna be here for some time yet. Okay, so, it's nice that we're moving forward, on this project. Hopefully we can get it done with the, money that we allocated, or close to it. And, okay, so next up is, Ukrainian Flags.
So this was brought forth to me from facilities. The 3 Ukrainian flags that we currently have displayed at the Vegreville signs and the one here on the building, they're getting a bit frayed. Do we want to replace them? And what is council's thought on how long are they going to stay up on the signs? So it was just a brief discussion. How long they're going to stay up. If they're going to be up for a long period of time, then we're going to order some extra flags so that they can be replaced and not frayed.
So what I've been noticing a lot is this Ukrainian flag with that symbol in it. Means that you're supporting Ukraine. Like, have you guys been seeing that a lot more? And it shows up on a lot of things. So myself personally, I'm not interested in taking it down until there's some resolution over there to what's going on. I mean, I know flags aren't cheap. I don't want to fly anything that's ripped up because that's just it's disrespectful. So,
because like we'll order 6 flags so that we, can, if one of them tears or frays, that the facilities can just change it without.
Okay, Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, I think the Ukrainian flag should stay flying here, and I'd like to see that go ahead. And I think typically out of a flag, you're probably getting about 6 weeks before it gets roughed up. Is that maybe?
Well,
don't mind. I fly them for a few months, 3 to 4 months, and they.
Since it appears we're living in Lethbridge for the last month and a half.
Is anybody interested in finding out before we order what the flag with that symbol in it, what it actually means? Because I just see a lot more places using that now in support of Ukraine. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So to just to make that, what the
Yeah.
flag is with the symbol. We'll send that out to you guys by email, if that's the one you'd like to go with.
Yeah, Counselor Warwood just brought a picture up of it. And just, what is the symbol, what does it mean? Because I know, even in the presentations that we've seen, from, the Klitschko, Mayor Klitschko, and they had that flag in the back and it had that symbol in it. I think it means like you're supporting them or they're fighting for whatever, so. Okay, moving on, lighting at Sunrise Park.
Thank you, Worship. This is another memo, Sunrise Park lighting. Vegreville residents and council have requested additional lighting around the Sunrise Park walking trail indicated by the white measurement line that you can see in the picture. There's currently only one light, HPS powered. I have to change that because it is LED now. I don't know when it was changed. It must have been quite recent because in the wintertime it was an HPS. So it is it's an LED light now. The pole is actually, so it's the yellow star that you can see in that map. And the pole is actually leaning, and I'm afraid it might topple into the water one day. It's sitting at a good 30-degree angle. That is owned by ATCO Electric, that light. Nobody knows when it was installed. It's not a registered pole with ATCO. That we know of. So I reached out to 4 different companies regarding solar street light options. Vantage Electrical provided a quote, Prolux, and the other one was never responded back. And we also talked with ATCO. The following details are based on the labor material to install. So all of them recommended between 13 and 18 lights along the walking trail. So this is because LED lights do not have ambient glow like HPS. They shine on this, and this, when we go to the LED lights for the street lights, we're also going to notice that where you're not going to get that ambient glow, it's going to be lighting up a specific portion of the road. Same as the walking trail. Vantage was pretty much everybody was 12-foot poles. That is the standard for walking trails. Screw piled into the ground, and they're solar powered. And they're meant to withstand the cold winters. ATCO did not do solar powered. They were looking at underground wired, and the difference in the prices. So Vantage was to do all of the lighting based on their lighting specialist that came out and did this. You're looking at $66,000, which is just shy of $3,700 per light. For ATCO, this is 30-foot wooden poles, and it would be underground wired, and you're looking at $10,000, just under shy of $10,400 per light.
And they would come with a monthly bill.
Yes.
Go ahead, you start, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. So sort of just to summarize, the gist of this report in front of you is based on, we recognize council asked us for a specific project. And we went out and looked at that, and when we started working with the companies and pricing and stuff, the companies came back to us and said, well, your objective is lighting, and the single light you're proposing putting there is not gonna meet that objective. So we've come back to you with this additional information, but really we're seeking some guidance today as to, are we way out to lunch on this? Because your objective was to put one light on the lake. We're still 100% willing to do that, but I think recognizing that if your goal is to perhaps appease some residents that were along that backside who were asking for lighting, that one light might not do it. So then we're looking at a larger lighting project perhaps in another year in order to achieve pathway or walkway lighting along that spot. So really I think the discussion here for purposes of this item is, do we want to just call it a day and do that one light we agreed to at the beginning and stick to that project? It's not super expensive. We can definitely get it done. Or is council's objective to actually provide more lighting around that area, in which case we'll probably roll this forward to a 2023 budget project because of the additional dollars.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is significantly more than I thought it would be. And it is quite different than all of the other walking trails that we have around town. Now, to be fair, many of the paths that we have are also lit by streetlights.
Municipal sidewalks.
Yeah. But this one would be off on its own, so it does require lighting of a different kind. But for that reason too, it backs onto everybody's yard, which again changes the amount of light that people are used to receiving. And I understand from the presentation by ATCO that the type of lighting has changed and the effect on people both above and below the ambient effect is certainly different. I'm not certain that this is exactly what we were looking for, just because of the price tag, but also this is potentially a little bit more invasive than that neighborhood expected, and it's certainly not in keeping with the rest of the paths that are, and honestly, there are a lot of sidewalks that are the part of our walking trail system that are more poorly lit, and they are street lights that are lighting those paths. So I'm not sure that this would be appropriate.
Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, okay, so I'm looking at this, and the cost is one thing for sure. It's I think it's not affordable at the moment. And also another thing is I'd like to know really what do the people that live around there think itself. It's a new trail. I don't know how many people know about the trail yet. Some probably still discovering it. But yeah, I think this needs to be postponed for a while in my eyes until a little more research is done. Just exactly what Councillor Rudick said about the ambient lighting, what's there, what people are used to. So I think I would like to leave this for a while.
Okay, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. School of two thoughts. I think that if you had decorative posts there and they're only 12 foot high with LED, it would not really affect the backyards of any of those places. It would definitely make the park look very neat. It would look very attractive. But from the other school of thought, I don't know if I can really justify $66,000 being spent there right now. It definitely would have to be something that would be considered during a budget period where we're weighing all of our pennies, because we get into arguments about $5,000 at budget time.
I call that discussion.
Oh, that's a discussion, right? You get my point, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to delay right now. Thank you.
Councillor Worrell.
So I'm kind of a little bit different on this one. We've talked a lot about doing solar, but we haven't done much with solar. So there is a part of me that would actually like to see us do something as a little bit of an experiment to decide it for bigger projects. I certainly am not going to jump into saying, though, let's jump in and do a $66,000 project. And I understand that that's what would be needed in order to achieve lighting. However, I think that fair to say is even though it wouldn't achieve a lit path, putting one on all four corners would still achieve additional lighting to what we currently have. And because it's solar, you can always add to it. It's not like we're talking about digging in. The price of 4 of those, based on the Vantage Electrical price, is much closer to what I thought we'd be putting in with one pole. So I'm wondering if we could consider, I understand it's not lighting the area, but potentially if we were to go into the 4 corners, it would certainly give more than what we have and give us an opportunity to test it without it becoming a huge budget. So that would be my recommendation. If we're going to go all the way, then I would say we wait.
Okay, Councillor Lemko.
That's exactly where I was running with this. I think if we put 4 lights in, we achieve something, and we get a consensus of what that looks like. It's not 12 lights, which is way over budget, but 4 lights gives us an idea of what that would look like. That's my, and we also get ATCO to come and straighten that 30-degree leaning thing, because it's their responsibility as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so I agree mostly in part with everybody. I mean, first of all, when we asked for this, and what we were looking to do is light up the lake a little more for some more activity in the wintertime, so that pole will only be in on one end. We did hear some feedback from some of the concerned residents over there regarding it's so dark and everything, but we have not proposed anything like this to them. I'm not against seeing this in the budget after we have a little bit of consultation with the residents, and they understand. And, Director Saskia, can you tell me when we're gonna be hearing from ATCO regarding our green plan, net zero projects that we're heading for?
So that's the study that you're
Yeah.
speaking to. They have reached out to us, and we have been providing them necessary info that they need to start the project. So it's ongoing.
Last email, they committed to starting in 2 weeks.
Okay, so I know that it was important to us to get into, as a municipality, how we were going to move forward with some sort of solar energy projects and stuff like that. So I think it will wait for that report, but if there's any way that we can light this lake up a little bit more for the winter time and straighten that pole out, I think that everybody here, there's nobody who was against 4 lights, but it has to be towards the lake though, or the man-made pond, sorry. Go ahead.
And I think just for clarity on this, if we could, if we're in a ledge meeting, we can't do a motion, so we'll bring it back to the next meeting. But you want 4 lights, so 3 additional ones on top of the one that's already there.
Yeah, and if they could straighten that one out. But they will be solar,
Okay,
correct?
but that's up to you guys. Yeah, if you want the solar ones, we'll go with the solar ones.
I'd like it, I think it's a good opportunity for us to explore what solar will do for us too.
I actually agree with that too. Okay,
Time to go green.
Okay, and as long as we're on this, this park, Sunrise Park, I know we talked about there was gonna be some more tables and trees planted out there. Is that still, that is still in the, moving
Yeah,
forward?
I actually met with the Parks Department this morning, and we've plotted out a plan for where the trees are. We finally got some bench prices, current bench prices, so it is gonna be, we're drawing out a map, and then we'll also be putting it out to the community for legacy trees and benches too, so.
Okay, perfect. Before we get to the closed session, we probably have another hour, 45 minutes, if everything goes good. Does anybody want to stop and take a break right now for any reason?
Sure.
Okay, can we postpone, or just take a small break here for, we can say 10 minutes? Is that good for everybody? Okay, thank you.